In chapter 12, we saw a red dragon emerging from the sea. The red dragon represented hostile kings and kingdoms throughout history that sought to kill the Messiah to prevent his reigning over the whole earth. Then we see a different dragon, the great dragon, which is Satan, hurled out of heaven. As a response, the great dragon pursues Israel to do her harm, but he's unsuccessful because of God's protection. Then Satan turns his attention to those who keep God's commands and hold fast to their testimony about Jesus. This brings us to chapter 13. And let's read verses 1 through 4. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horn, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshiped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" You may notice that there's a difference between the English and the Chinese text. The English says the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. Whereas the Chinese text says, 我又看见一个兽从海中上来. The Chinese text is actually more true to the original Greek. The English is assuming that the one standing on the shore is the dragon, not John, and seeks to clarify that point. Either case, I don't think it's that important. The emphasis is on the beast that is coming out of the sea. The beast is first identified in Daniel 7, verse 23 through 25. In Daniel's vision, he sees 4 kingdoms, one like a leopard, one like a bear, one like a lion, and one too terrible to describe. He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on the earth. It will be different from all other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will arise different from the early ones, and he will subdue 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times and a half. In John's vision, he sees this 4th kingdom, which takes on all the characteristics of the first 3 kingdoms that Daniel saw. Furthermore, this 4th kingdom will be the final world empire ruled by a satanic dictator. The 10 horns are 10 kings that emerge from this final earthly kingdom, and one king has authority over all the earth. This king is also called the beast. There's no inconsistency here with the beast referring to the kingdom and its leader. For example, countries are often associated with their leaders. A case in point is when you think of Mao Zedong, you automatically think of the People's Republic of China. It's difficult to think of China without thinking of Mao Zedong. In this text, the kingdom and its leader are both referred to as the beast. We see that the beast receives his authority and power from the dragon. We learned in chapter 12 that the dragon is none other than Satan. While Jesus was being tempted in the desert, Satan made him an offer. He said, again, the devil took him to a very high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. The same offer has been extended to a man, and the man has accepted. As a result, he has dominion over all the kingdoms of the world. This man, this beast, is the Antichrist. Through this man, Satan will express his own desire and authority. The beast subdues 3 of the 10 kings. Then he and the remaining 7 kings become one in purpose and intent in carrying out Satan's directives. The term Antichrist gives the idea of someone who is just the opposite of Christ, vulgar, mean, cruel, hateful, etc. But the Antichrist will have these characteristics well disguised. The Antichrist will be charismatic, popular, respected, well thought of by the masses. He will come as a false Messiah. He will imitate the true Messiah. In fact, imitating Christ's death and resurrection, the Antichrist will be wounded with what should have been a fatal wound, but he lives. As a result, people will be amazed and the beast will grow in power and fame. People will marvel at his leadership and his ability to bring about a temporary world peace. Let's continue our study and look at verses 5 through 10. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and exercise his authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Whoever has ears, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. Here we see God allowing the beast, that is the Antichrist, to have free reign on the earth for 42 months, or 3.5 years during half of the 7-year Great Tribulation. The Antichrist is given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemy. This implies that Satan is directing the Antichrist's speech. His speech is blasphemous to God as well as to those who live in heaven. This could be a reference to angels, or it could also include God's holy people. The beast is given the power to harm God's people who remain on the earth. Presumably, prior to this time, God's people have been caught up to be with the Lord. This event is referred to the rapture. So who would these people who belong to God be who remain on the earth? Remember, during the same 3.5 years, there are 2 witnesses who are God's prophets along the likes of Moses and Elijah. These 2 witnesses are given great power and authority to demonstrate that they are God's witnesses. We also learned in chapter 7 that there may be 144,000 Jews who are proclaiming Jesus as Messiah during this time. As a result, there will be many people who come to faith in the Lord. These will be the people that the beast seeks to conquer. The beast has authority over who has authority over the whole earth will set himself up as God and will demand people's worship. Those who haven't put their faith in the Lord have been deceived in believing that the beast is God and he is worthy of worship. You may notice that there's a difference between the English and the Chinese translation in verse 10. Older English translations and the he bun in Chinese translate the passage incorrectly. Newer translations have revised the text. For example, the Chinese Contemporary Bible translated, 该破路的人不被路，该被刀的杀的比被刀杀，因此圣徒需要军人和信心。This translation makes sense in the overall context of the chapter, where the earlier translation seems out of place. This passage is a warning to Christians who are on the earth during these 3.5 years of tribulation. Some Christians may be destined to be imprisoned. Some may be destined to be executed. Regardless of their circumstances, regardless of their destiny, they need to remain faithful and to persevere in the face of this persecution. We need to be reminded God is sovereign. He is still on his throne and he will overcome. Luke 12:4-5 reminds us, I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear whom, after your body has been killed, has authority to throw you into hell. Let's finish up today's study and examine verses 11-18. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed, and had performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all that who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. John sees a second beast coming out of the earth. This beast has horns like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. This means that the beast appears to be like a lamb in that he's gentle and unassuming. However, he speaks like a dragon. His words inspired or directed by the dragon, that is Satan. With this second beast, what we now see is an unholy trinity. Satan, counterfeit trinity. The dragon is the anti-father. The first beast is the Antichrist, and the second beast is the anti-Holy Spirit. Satan continues to try and imitate God in order to deceive. The role of the second beast is to trick people into worshiping the Antichrist. He will have power to deceive people using signs and wonders. He'll set up an image of the Antichrist and it will be able to speak. Whether the image is created supernaturally or technologically, it will be impressive. This is an idolatrous image and it will be set up in the rebuilt Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Daniel 9 verse 7 speaks of the image being set up in the middle of the 7-year tribulation. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. All that are not sealed with the Holy Spirit will worship the Antichrist, and indirectly they will be worshiping Satan, either overtly or unknowingly. One of the main strategies of the unholy trinity to gain control of people is to control who can and cannot buy goods. This will be done by placing a mark either on the hand or the forehead. The technology to accomplish this already exists. The April 10, 2020 issue of Euro Weekly reported that 4,000 Swedes have already had high-tech chips about the size of a grain of rice inserted into their hands, with the pioneers predicting millions will soon join them as they hope to take this globally. Using the implants makes cash and credit cards redundant and massively reduce the risk of transmitting infections by the coronavirus. They have particularly caught on enabling owners to pay in stores with the simple swipe of a hand, a big deal in a forward-looking country that is moving towards eliminating cash. Of course, this will present tremendous problems for Christians who remain on the earth because they will not take the seal. As a result, they will not be able to buy or sell anything. In John's vision, he ends this chapter with mentioning the name of the mark of the beast, which is 666. There's been much speculation regarding who the Antichrist might be. For Christians, this is something we should not stress over. We need to be more focused on serving the true Messiah, the true Christ, rather than concerning ourselves speculating who is the Antichrist. His identity will be revealed at the proper time. All that is revealed in this chapter is somewhat overwhelming. So what should be our response? Should we be concerned? We shouldn't allow it to alarm us. We need to be about the work of the Lord. As believers, we should be encouraged that God is our Redeemer. Isaiah 41 also is an encouragement to us. I took you from the ends of the earth, from its farthest corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I've chosen you and I've not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I'm your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand.